my generation. Just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Things they do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation.
Please join me in welcoming Phoenix natives, Larry and Meagan Johnson.
Hey! I thought I'd kick off by telling a little story about Meagan. Now, when Meagan was 16 years old, she got her driver's license, and she came to her mother and me and said, "Dad, I'd love to have a car for myself." Now, we had told her that she could drive we had a second car. It was a nice, solid Buick sedan. And I said, "You can drive the Buick anytime we're not using it. It's yours to use." She says, "No, I want a car of my own." Really? Okay. In fact, what I was thinking of was a sports car. I said, "Okay, I understand that. I was young once. I wanted a sports car too." I said, "So how are you going to pay for it?" And she said, "I kind of thought you would." Now, I was raised by parents who had gone through the Great Depression and World War II, and so I never got a car bought for me. And I intended to instill those kinds of values that you buy your way onto my daughter. So I said, "That's not going to happen. If you want a sports car, you're going to have to earn the money and buy it yourself." She said, "Well, okay." Now, I wanted to help her out. I didn't want to be all that mean. And I noticed that McDonald's was hiring just down the street, a few blocks, had a sign in the window. And so I came home all excited. I said, "Meagan, they're hiring at McDonald's right now, 2 blocks away from the house. How convenient is that? I mean, you can get a job there, go to school, earn that money, and buy that sports car." And do you know what she said to me?
"I will never wear a uniform made of polyester."
I said, "Okay, well, if that's your attitude, you're on your own, kid. I mean, when I was a boy, having the opportunity to work at a job just 2 blocks down the street and I still go to school would have been a big deal, and I would have jumped at it." So I said, "You're on your own." Well, to her credit, she, and at the time, she was hanging out up at Metro Center, and she got herself a job at a clothing store up there that marketed and sold clothing to people who were her age, teenagers. Most of the clothing looked like it had been through a shredder. Remember those clothes, arms ripped off and stuff? Yeah. You had to pay extra for that. Anyway, she got herself a job there as a sales clerk, and to her credit, by the time she was a senior, she was assistant manager. And before she graduated from high school, she bought herself a used, pretty well used, but a used Porsche 914. Yeah. Which, of course, as her dad and protector, I needed to drive that car a lot just to make sure it was okay.
So what my dad's talking about is obviously difference in generations. And Generation X became the first generation in large numbers to have both parents working. And not just both parents working, but both parents working and actively pursuing a career that often took families away from their extended families. So when Generation X came home, Mom wasn't there, Dad wasn't there, Grandma and Grandpa, they lived in an entirely different state, only saw them once or twice a year. Nobody was there. What did we call them? Maybe remember? Latchkey kids. I do not think being a latchkey kid was a bad deal. Because as a latchkey kid, here's how it worked. As a little kid, when I was at school, I went to the Encanto School District. When I was a little kid, I always found it ironic that while you're at school from 8 to 3, you had to obey all these rules for your safety. Then at 3 o'clock, they open the doors and you're free to go. The world is your own. You don't have to hurry home. There's nobody waiting for you. You saunter on home when you feel like it. We let ourselves right in the front door. We can let ourselves in the front door because we had our own key. Where'd we keep our key, Gen Xers? Anybody remember? Yes, a little string around your neck. You'd let yourself in the front door, you'd walk into the house, and there sitting on the kitchen counter was a list of tasks that had been left by management.
And or both parents were working, so the kids were kind of on their own. And I know any guilt that I retain from having done that to Meagan, she's telling us now that she thought it was a pretty good deal. Now, she didn't really say that when it was happening. You're going to leave me all alone? Yeah. But it has paid off in interesting ways. I know for Meagan, she's one of the most independent people I know, and always has been. You know, she got that sports car. I remember when she was in the 4th grade, I was working and her mother was actually going to ASU to finish up her degree, and so she'd come home every night and be there by herself. And one time one of our dogs, because we're dog lovers and we had a couple of dogs, one of the dogs cut her tail, somehow whacked it against something, and when Meagan walked in the door, it looked like there'd been a massacre in there. The entire living room was sprayed with blood. There was blood everywhere. And this, by the way, just happened to her, Meagan's dogs, a couple of weeks ago.
They're going to start thinking we're doing weird things to our dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole different story. But anyway, so Meagan here, she's 9 years old. She called, there were no cell phones back then, so she called to see if she could get a hold of me. I was teaching a class in my job. She called, couldn't get a hold of her mother, really had no options. So what Meagan did was call a taxi, and then went and got her piggy bank, broke it open, got some money out, and the taxi came and she loaded that dog in the taxi. Driver wasn't too happy about blood all over his taxi. Took that dog down and got it fixed at the vet's. Now that's a 9-year-old kid kind of acting independently to take care of a problem. And I think that's what Gen Xers have learned in the experiences they've had in growing up. So in dealing with Gen Xers, I think we must really respect that sense of independence.
But can you imagine? You have 77 million baby boomers living and working in a world that have been created by the traditional generation. And so what baby boomers began to do during the late 60s and the early 70s, a lot of baby boomers began to challenge and question the rules. And during the late 60s and the early 70s, a lot of baby boomers, you had pharmaceutical assistants. Some of you had more than others. This is actually a picture of my 2 favorite baby boomers, my mom and dad. That is my dad in the center, wearing a flowered blouse. Nice blouse, Dad.
Thanks.
Do you see yourself a tablecloth? You think, I'm going to make myself a blouse. And then my mother, that's her in the corner there. I love my mother so much, but oh my gosh, what is she wearing? What is this mess? We've got bands of color, we've got holes all over the place, and look at this, it's fringe, it's fringe. What do you call those things? You pull them over your head, what do you call them? Poncho! Yes, she actually made it herself. With a stick. Are there any baby boomers that still have a poncho in their closet? Anybody still have a poncho in their closet? Yes. Of course! Yes! You've got 2 ponchos!
So we sat down at the dining room table one evening, and I took a bunch of these little Lego building blocks, and I put them in the middle of the table and counted them out. And I said, now Meagan, let's pretend that each one of these is $1. Now she understood the concept of $1 because that was her allowance. Her weekly allowance was $1. So she understood that, and she went, oh, wow, that's a lot of dollars. And we get that, what, every month? I said, yeah. I said, now, wait a minute. Let me count some out that we have to send to the bank, because the bank really owns our house. We don't. They loaned us the money to buy it. Now we have to pay them. And if we don't pay them, they will take our house and kick us into the street. I said, and here's how many dollars we have to spend every month because the bank owns our car. And if I'm going to find a job, your mom's going to find a job, we need a car to do that. I said, and so we have to send that money to the bank. Here's how much we have left. And until we get more dollars to get in there, this is the way it is. And if you've got any ideas, we'd like to hear them. Meagan didn't say a word. She went into her room and she came out with that piggy bank and brought it over and put it on the table and said, "Here, Daddy, will this help?" I thought I would cry. Anyway, after I took the piggy bank, just kidding. But I was tempted. It was heavy. I said, where'd you get all this money? Yeah, Pam, I could have told you why. That would have been a nice touch and asked for your participation and help, right? You'd have probably been a lot more willing to jump in. And by the way, what age group are you? What? Generation X. Now, this principle works with any generation when you're managing them, but especially with Generation X.
And a honey badger award is if you get caught, and if you watch the video, you'll hear them say the word badass. If you get caught doing something badass, you get the honey badger award. And the honey badger award is that you can choose a restaurant to go out to eat, and the store will pay for your dinner. He said, and we pay for drinks too. He said, but the catch is that you have to choose somebody else from the store to go with you. And during the course of the meal, the two of you have to come up with at least one idea to help improve land sharks. And then you present that idea at the monthly meeting. And I said, do you get some good ideas? He said, well, they've been drinking. He said, but you know what? We do get a lot of good ideas. He said, and sometimes those ideas that I wouldn't even think really mattered. He said, for example, we listened to Pandora radio during the workday. He said, and one of the ideas was every hour somebody else gets to choose the style of music on Pandora. He said, it never even occurred to me. He said, but what it did was it gave them a way to personalize their environment. And that's what I want you to think about with Generation Y. Is there ways that you can help empower them to personalize their environment, their experience here at Alhambra? Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi. What can I do for you?
How you doing?
I'm doing great. What can I do for you?
Good. I'm just cruising around here looking at everything.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Can I help you out?
Cool. I recognize you.
You do?
Yeah, you're the superintendent.
Yes, my name is Meagan Johnson. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. They had you on a video in new employee orientation.
Oh, you're one of our new employees.
Yes, I am.
Wow. Well, welcome.
I'm working in IT.
Yeah, well, terrific. They are. They're happy to have you there.
Yeah, well, it's cool. Yeah, that was a nice little speech you gave about being welcome and everything. That's cool.
Well, I appreciate it. Glad you're here.
Yeah, so you have an office?
Do I have an office?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have an office. It's over in the other building.
When do I get an office?
When do you get an office?
Yeah, they got me in this cubicle. Sucks.
What you want to do is you want to get with your manager and you're going to look at your 5-year plan.
My what?
Your 5-year plan.
Yeah, right.
And then,
so do you live around here somewhere?
Yeah, I live right over by Squaw Peak Mountain.
Oh, yeah. I live there, too.
You do?
Yeah, with my parents.
Oh, with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, cool. Well, maybe you and I could get together.
Well,
hang out. You married? Because, I mean, you're totally hot.
Well, you probably want to talk to Human Resources about that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get together and hang out. I can give you a ride to work if you need a ride.
A ride to work? Well, thank you. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I got a motorcycle.
A motorcycle,
You're welcome
great.
to come with me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
That'd be great. All right.
You probably should get back. They hate it when you're late.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you do Facebook or Twitter or
Yes. I believe yes.
Okay. Well, I'll connect with you and we'll be in touch. Okay?
Terrific. Thank you.
All
nice
right,
meeting
cool.
you.
Nice meeting you. Yeah.
Okay. That again. It's his favorite part of the day. I was in the car with my father. A song came on the radio called Love the One You're With. You heard this with Stephen Stills? I love that song. And when it came on the radio, I told my dad, I said, turn it up. I love this song. He said, really? He said, what do you like about it? I said to my dad, I like the message it sends. He said, well, what do you think the message is? I said to my dad, well, the line in the song, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. I said, what that means is if the one that you love dumps you, gotta love the one you're with. And the one you're with is yourself. You have to love yourself first. I told my dad it is clearly a song about self-empowerment. He said, that's not what the song means. And after he told me what the song meant, I said, that's disgusting. Because it does not matter how old you are, there are certain things you never want to hear your mom or dad say. I said, here's the difference, Dad. You grew up with that cornball slogan, free love. Spare me. I grew up in the 80s. There's no such thing as a free lunch, much less free love. But this generation, they don't need to see you face to face to communicate because they feel comfortable using technology. Most baby boomers learned to use technology at work. That's when we became familiar using technology. Gen Xers, we became familiar using technology at school. But this generation, many of them using technology before they even go to school. And I've even talked to some of you who said your students, they may not have technology at home, but they find ways to use it. They go to the library to use it. So that tablet, that computer, that smartphone, it's not a mystery to them. And for the very first time in history, we have a younger generation that knows more about something we need to know. We'll bring a brand new computer home. We'll call our kids over. We'll point to the computer. We'll say to our kids, okay, how do you install the parental controls? And I wish you the most successful school year. Thank you so much.
Don't